every morning with drive. Being on the grind, know I had to survive. We had to win. Started from the dirt and the rubble. I had to be the needle that was popping your bubble.
Hello and welcome into the Rookie Prospect Profile Series. This is a Zilla Fantasy Elite production. Today we're going to be looking at tight end Theo Johnson within the rookie tight end machine learning models. Fantasy glory or fantasy bust? The fate of Theo Johnson hangs in the balance as our machine learning models deliver their verdict. Stay tuned for the analysis. Theo Johnson was drafted in the 4th round of the NFL draft, pick 107 overall by the New York Giants. Strange fact here, he was actually drafted in the CFL draft because he is Canadian in the 8th round, pick 71 overall. Obviously, I'm assuming he's going to go to the NFL here. He did play college football at Penn State. He comes in at a whopping 6'6", 259 pounds. The big thing about him is that he was supposed to be very athletic. Comes in, does the testing, runs a 4.57 at 259 pounds, giving him a speed score of 121.2, which is very good. Vertical jump, 39.5 inches, very good there. Broad jump, 125. He's getting a burst score similar to like Xavier Legette, who we know is super explosive. So just keep that in mind. That is the type of athlete we're dealing with here. 10.25 inch hand size, 33-inch arm length, so pretty good overall here. Agility score is really good for tight ends and just seems like a monster athlete here. We know those guys go well in the NFL, so what is he going to look like? New York Giants certainly don't have a ton of target competition there outside of the other rookie, Malik Neighbors. So let's dive into his first year numbers and see what we get. And we see here, even though Theo Johnson was the 5th tight end drafted in the NFL draft, the ranks here are number 2 across the board, except for his maximum output at 8.54. So the mean and median 5.11 and 5.05, second best in the class. CV at 24.7. Pretty confident that these results are pretty close together. There's not a ton of variation or variance in this particular profile. So who was hitting around 5 fantasy points per game during their rookie season as a tight end and then hovering around 8.5 as a tight end? Let's go look at the potential prospects of Theo Johnson in year 1. All right, just as a reminder, there's a little over 200 total tight ends in the last 11 seasons who played during their rookie year. So we're going to go look at all the ones that are hovering in between 4.9 and about 5.3 fantasy points per game during their rookie year. These are all inside the top 50 within the last 11 draft classes. We have a guy named Hale Hinchis, Jelani Woods in his rookie season, 4.95 last year. Max Williams, Michael Mayer last year, 5.1. Emmanuel Bird, 5.1. Matt Lacoste, 5.2. And then Dawson Knox, Clive Walford, and Austin Hooper all at 5.3 during their rookie seasons. Not a terrible list of people there that he's being comped to for his median output in his rookie season. We do see that 8.54 maximum output. It's 5th best in the class, but we're getting into the top 15 of the last 11 draft classes in terms of that particular output. So 8.54. Greg Dulcich hit 8.61 in his rookie season. Just below that, a guy named Chris Gregg at 8.2. Chris Herndon, 8.1. Ian Thomas, 8.1. Will Tye, 8. And then just above Greg Dulcich, we have Will Dissly at 8.9. Dalton Kincaid last year, 9.39. These are getting inside the top 10 within the last 11 draft classes. And then Pat Freiermuth was the 8th best tight end in his rookie season out of the last 11 draft classes at 9.48. So we really see a pretty solid profile here from Theo Johnson. Number 2 rank across the board, super athletic guy. We know that goes a long way in terms of being a good tight end. He's got certainly a good landing spot as a rookie here to garner targets in his first season. So not too bad of an output here. Let's go look at year 2, what happens. And we see him take a little bump up here in the mean and median up into the 6 range. So mean and median 6.14 and 6.07. And he's 3rd across the board here in terms of his rank in all of the year 2 categories. CV actually improved to 25.7%, which is the 3rd best in the class. But that's a really solid CV there, saying it's pretty confident in these particular results for Theo Johnson. And if you look at the graphs on the bottom there, you can kind of see all of the most popular outputs throughout the 1,000 simulations that we ran are actually hovering right around that mean and median at 6. So let's go take a peek who was hitting that in their second season as a tight end. And if he would hit exactly 6, that was Ross Dwelly in his second season. This is inside the top 35 out of the last 11 draft classes. We're looking at a total of 150 tight ends out of the last 11 draft classes who have played at least 2 seasons and recorded some snaps. So just below that, Isaiah Likely last year, 5.95. Will Tye, 5.8. Clive Walford again, 5.8. Cameron Brate, 5.8. A little bit above that, actually quite a bit above that 6 point. The next closest, Troy Nicholas and Luke Wilson at 6.4. Chiga Kwankwo we have at 6.67, and then a couple guys at 6.7, which were Tyler Eifert and Timothy Wright. That's looking at his mean median outcome. Again, this is like top 30, top 35 within the last 11 draft classes, so not too bad. We do see that rank third within the class. Let's go look at that maximum output. Third best in the class at 11.12, but we see this is cresting into the top 10 out of the last 11 draft classes. So you might not even get one player per draft class that hit this particular mark. We have TJ Hawkinson at 10.96, Trey McBride at 10.68, and the 10th best ever second season in the last 11 draft classes was Hunter Henry at a 10.6. And again, his maximum output above all of those. Austin Seferian-Jenkins and Evan Ingram both hit 11.3. Travis Kelce, the 5th best second-year tight end score out of the last 11 seasons, was at 11.4. Again, you're getting into some pretty solid names here if Theo Johnson can hit that maximum output. Certainly, if he's got Malik Neighbors there, he's probably going to draw a lot of the coverage. Theo Johnson might get some of these underneath things. And we don't know what that quarterback situation looks like, but he is in a solid situation to get some targets going his way in that particular offense. So far, so good from Theo Johnson. What are we going to see going into year 3? And unfortunately, we see a little drop down in the mean and median here. Looking at his particular graphs down there in the bottom, we're getting a lot of stuff in between that 25th and median outcome, which is probably hovering around the 5 fantasy points per game bucket range. He's got a lot of them in that particular range, but it's saying, CV at 31.2, it's 4th best in the class. He's got a little bit more variance going into the year 3 in terms of his profile. The 2 minimum rank and the 6 maximum rank almost telling you he's got more of the high floor, low ceiling in terms of the year 3 outcome. But in terms of this, it does, have a big trailing end there on the right side. So we got quite a few higher end outcomes here, 6 to 10 range, in the year 3 model here. But let's go look at that 5.5 or so fantasy point per game range in the 3rd season, see what we get from those particular tight ends for names. We actually don't have a ton in this particular range. This is just inside the top 40 of the last 11 draft classes. We have 5 total tight ends that scored between 5 and 6 fantasy points per game during their 3rd season. Some decent names, though. David Njoku, who we knew came on pretty solid last year. Foster Moreau, 5.02, very athletic tight end there as well. Trey Burton had his moments for fantasy at 5.4. Vance McDonald, 5.8, the old San Francisco tight end, and he had some years as well. And then O.J. Howard at 6 fantasy points per game in his 3rd season, which was his worst out of the first 4 seasons that he was in the NFL. But you get some pretty interesting names hovering around the mean and median, which aren't too bad. That maximum output of 11.02, just outside of the top 10 in terms of the last 11 draft classes and the 6th best in this particular class. So we have Dawson Knox at 10.94 in his 3rd season, Mike Gesicki 10.62, Dallas Goedert 10.58, Austin Hooper 10.1, Noah Fant 9.94, and then a little bit above that range, Eric Ebron at 11.1, Cameron Brate, Zach Ertz at 11.4, Travis Kelce here at 11.6 is the 7th best ever in the 3rd season for a tight end here. So we did see a little dip back there from Theo Johnson. Is he going to be one of these guys who's okay to start his career and then just kind of plateaus and sits there at, tight end 6 to 8 range throughout his career? Or is he going to have a little boost up here into year 4? And we get in there, and sure, we see he gets back up into the 6 fantasy points per game range, 4th best in the class. Maximum output at 13.82 is the 5th best in the class. So again, we see a large tailing edge on the right side, which saying he's got quite a few, 25% of his outcomes are basically the further out that you get, the more fantasy points that you get. It's not a sharp edge. It's saying he's got a lot of potential outcomes where he's scoring some of these higher fantasy points per game range, maybe in the 7, 8, 9 range, versus his median output, which is giving more towards that most common bucket, which is probably, again, in the 5 fantasy point per game range. Let's go look at the 4th-year tight ends, see which one of those we're hitting right in that 6 fantasy points per game range. We have a couple tight ends here in between 5.8 and 6.6 fantasy points per game. Deion Sims, 5.8. Gerald Everett, 5.81. Jeff Swaim at 6.2. And then Trey Burton and Ryan Griffin at 6.5 each. CJ Uzama hit 6.6. Again, 6.6, not super usable, but probably hovering in the, tight end 2 category. If you're in a 2 tight end league in Dynasty or in redraft, this range is definitely serviceable, but not somebody that you're going to be interested in terms of if you want an edge on a 1 tight end league. He's probably somebody you can pick off the waiver wires at that point. The 13.82 is a very solid maximum output, though, for year 4. 5th best in the class, but that is Travis Kelce. 5th best ever in the last 11 draft classes in year 4 at 13.8. Zach Ertz, 13.1. TJ Hawkinson, 12.67. And then a little bit above that, Jordan Reed, 4th best ever at 14. Austin Hooper, 14.6. George Kittle, 15.64 was the 2nd best ever. And then Mark Andrews hit 17.71 in his 4th season, rounding out the best of the best tight ends in the last 11 draft classes. So a little bit of an interesting profile here. Theo Johnson, certainly a path to targets. We see him start off pretty well, but kind of plateaus. He's right around that 5 fantasy points per game, 5 to 6. And this profile, according to the machine learning model, says, hey, he's going to be pretty good from the get-go, but he might not necessarily get any better from that first particular season. So if you see him, hey, he got like 5 or 6 fantasy points per game, finished right around tight end 12, he's going to get some hype going into the 2nd year, and that might be your opportunity to say, you know what? Machine learning model did say to expect this from Theo Johnson. He's not really going to improve from here. He's now being treated like he's got some upside, top 6, 7 dynasty tight end. I'm going to trade him for a late 1st or early 2nd round pick. Then you can kind of boost up from there and win in your dynasty leagues. All right, that's going to do it for today's rookie prospect profile on Theo Johnson. Hopefully you can use this information to dominate your league mates. This is presented by Zilla Fantasy Elite. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.